Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Kris. This is part 4, Tutankhamun, the boy Pharaoh documentary. We just ended with a couple of guys got permission and they think there's more in the Valley of the Kings, so they're going to start digging. Before we get started, there's a thanks button on the channel. You can donate, you don't have to. You can also support the channel by subscribing if you don't want to do that. Give me a thumbs up. Those are the only things that I ask. Subscribing, it's your choice. Thumbs up helps me tremendously, and it doesn't do anything. It doesn't affect you in any way. And donating to support the channel, well, that's if you can. If you can't, hey, the videos are still here. Just keep enjoying them. All right, let's get started with part 4.
The outbreak of the First World War disrupted their plans, as Carnarvon was unable to travel to Egypt, while Carter worked in Cairo as an intelligence officer and did not have the time to carry out any new excavations. Yet, in his spare time, Carter continued to examine the map of the Valley of the Kings and focused on the Central Valley, the region where the tombs of Horemheb and the reburied Amarna royals had been discovered by Davis. He was not convinced that Tutankhamun's tomb had already been found and theorized that the king's tomb still awaited discovery. By 1917, Carter was able to begin work to test his theories, but after 5 years of excavating, nothing of real significance had been found, certainly not any intact royal tomb. By 1922, Lord Carnarvon had lost hope and informed Carter that he was withdrawing his sponsorship. The archaeologist urged his patron to give him one last chance, pointing to the group of workmen's huts near the tomb of Ramesses VI, which had not been cleared to the bedrock. Carter was even prepared to finance an extra season of digging himself, so long as Carnarvon authorized him to carry out the work under his permit. Impressed by Carter's determination, he agreed to sponsor one final season of work. On the 1st of November 1922, Carter's team began to remove the workmen's huts. On the 4th of November, the team stumbled upon a single step before uncovering a doorway leading to a sealed tomb. Although the tomb did not look like a royal tomb and he could not make out a name, he excitedly sent word to Carnarvon announcing the discovery of a tomb with its seal intact. Carter reburied the steps until Carnarvon's arrival on the 24th of November. The steps and doorway were uncovered to reveal the name of King Tutankhamun. As the excavation continued, Carter could not yet be certain that it was a tomb and not a cache of funerary goods from different kings, and he was disappointed to see signs that the tomb had been broken into before it was resealed. By the 26th of November, the entrance corridor had been cleared. Accompanied by Carnarvon and his daughter, Lady Evelyn Herbert, Carter poked a hole into the antechamber and asked for a candle. As he peered inside, he saw a glittering collection of golden treasures and could hardly believe his eyes. Carnarvon broke the silence and asked Carter if he could see anything, to which the archaeologist replied, "Yes, wonderful things." The following day, accompanied by an Egyptian official, Carter and Carnarvon became the first people to step inside Tutankhamun's tomb for well over 3,000 years. Carter and Carnarvon found signs that the burial chamber had been broken into, and in order to reassure themselves that the burial was still intact, they are alleged to have broken through the same opening before resealing it. An official opening of the tomb was then held on the 29th of November. The discovery was reported in the Times of London the following morning. As the man who discovered an intact royal tomb in the Valley of the Kings, Carter knew he had a great responsibility. He installed a steel gate at the tomb's entrance to bolster security, and he decided to document each item from the tomb in its original location and after it had been taken for examination. In this work, he was assisted by the chemist Alfred Lucas and the photographer Harry Burton, while a nearby tomb was commandeered to serve as a laboratory for the conservation and documentation of the artifacts. By the 16th of February 1923, the antechamber had been emptied of its contents and work could begin on the burial chamber. A number of factors hindered the work on Tutankhamun's tomb. including the attention of the world's press and the arrival of thousands of tourists and dignitaries keen to catch a glimpse of the golden treasures Carter had uncovered. Work was further delayed by the death of Lord Carnarvon after a mosquito bite on his face became infected. Lady Carnarvon was allowed to keep her late husband's permit, but work stopped amidst disputes between the Egyptian government and the Carnarvon estate over the distribution of the finds from the tomb. When the press claimed that Carnarvon had succumbed to an ancient curse, an irritated Carter insisted that the tomb was safe and no such curse existed.
Quick question. What am I trying to ask? Is the interest in Tutankhamun because he was a boy king, boy pharaoh, king, you know what I'm saying? Was it because he was so young and he also died so young? I mean, he died at 19, he had a 9-year reign. Is it because of that? Is it because he was lost to history for 3,000 years? Is it because they found the chamber, even though it was broken into, it was sealed well enough? Like, what suddenly became this need for him compared to some of the others? Is it... That's kind of just... For me, my interest in him is just the youth. He's so young. When I was 10 years old, no way I could have expected to be king. And to have been dead at 19. Wow.
It wasn't until September 1925 that work began to remove the pharaoh's body from his coffins. After the lids of the first 2 coffins were removed, the golden innermost coffin was revealed in all its splendor. As the 2 inner coffins were stuck together by the resin used to seal the coffins, they were brought to the antechamber, where the lid of the golden coffin could be opened, revealing the mummy with its famous gold death mask on its head. Since the mummy itself was stuck to the golden coffin, Carter's workmen carried the 2 coffins into the laboratory. Unable to separate the mummy from the coffin, Carter decided to unwrap Tutankhamun inside his coffins, an operation carried out by the anatomist Douglas Derry and an Egyptian assistant. As layer after layer of the linen bandages were removed, the amulets and jewelry were collected for further analysis. By the time the king's corpse was revealed, it was found to be in very poor condition. In order to remove all the items found on the king's body, Carter's team had to dismember the body until the decapitated head remained still covered by the golden mask. Derry eventually separated the mask from the head with heated knives, revealing the face of the king whom he had just cut to pieces. It was not until 1932 that conservation work was finally completed on the tomb. But Carter's discovery had elevated the status of a relatively minor pharaoh, one who was forgotten for 3 millennia, to become the most widely known of all Egyptian rulers. A replica of the tomb's antechamber was made for the British Empire exhibition at Wembley Park in 1924 and 1925, while shops in London were full of merchandise bearing images of artifacts from the tomb, most notably the Golden Mask, which was first exhibited to the public in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo in January 1926. Carter reassembled Tutankhamun's body and returned it to the outermost coffin and the sarcophagus in the burial chamber. Carter died in March 1939, shortly before the outbreak of the Second World War. It is believed that during the war, the tomb was broken into and the body disturbed, and a team of researchers in 1968 found that the body was no longer in the position Carter had described when he returned it to the tomb. In January 2005, Tutankhamun was taken out of his tomb for CT scanning. In November 2007, Tutankhamun's body was moved into the antechamber for better preservation in a climate-controlled case. Pending the discovery of any new royal tombs, he is the only Egyptian pharaoh to be resting in his own tomb. In recent decades, researchers have used the data collected from Tutankhamun's body to draw conclusions about Tutankhamun's life and death. The theory that he had a club foot is supported by what appear to be numerous walking sticks found in his tomb. But it is possible that his remains were damaged either during the embalming process or by Carter's team, and that these sticks were actually used as symbols of royal authority rather than to help the king walk. Similarly, there are competing theories about the cause of his death. DNA testing suggests that he suffered from malaria, while a dislodged piece in his skull has fueled the belief that he was murdered, challenging the idea that his death was owing to a hunting accident. The absence of Tutankhamun's
I think that his skull getting damaged could have been just from all the people handling him and everything like that. Broken leg back in those days, if it gets infected and they're not in a position to be able to cut the leg off, if they understood that's what needed to be done, then yeah, that's a wrap. That's your life. So I still lean towards that just because medicine, you know, it's so much better.
Heart and damage to his rib cage points to a traumatic wound to the chest, though this may have been the result of damage to the mummy which occurred during the break-in during the Second World War. Although
And if Carter left the body a certain way and then people came in and it was moved and changed, you have people probably like moving him and doing all kinds of stuff. Maybe somebody hits him. You never know. I mean,
Tutankhamun's body remained in Egypt, the artifacts from his tomb have been exhibited abroad on several occasions. Beginning in 1961 with a tour of North America, accompanied by a campaign to raise awareness for the conservation of archaeological sites impacted by the construction of the Aswan High Dam in Egypt. During the late 1960s and early 1970s, the treasures traveled to Europe, including London, Paris, and throughout the Soviet Union. Since the 1980s, Tutankhamun's famous gold mask has remained in Egypt, where it is expected to stay forever. But other items from the tomb have been exhibited internationally since 2004, until the...
Growing up as a kid, I don't know why, but I feel like my museum had a Tutankhamun experience. And I don't know if we had any of the actual stuff or if it was replica stuff, but I remember going around with my dad and just looking at stuff, and that might have been the first time I kind of knew who Tutankhamun was, and it would have been in the 80s, and I was just like looking at it, and I didn't quite understand really what I was looking at, but I knew my dad was blown away. My dad just, you know, because his whole life he knew who he was, and my dad was born in London in 45, and so he learned all about him when he was a boy, you know. But, you know, my dad liked stuff like that. So, me, it was different. And I vaguely remember my mom being there. It might have just been maybe him and I don't remember. But I remember seeing, you know, glass statues and things inside and a lot of gold. But I vaguely remember it. It could have been for something else. I have no idea.
Outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. The whole collection of artifacts from Tutankhamun's tomb, over 5,000 objects in total, is being prepared for display at the Grand Egyptian Museum, newly built near the pyramids of Giza. Over a century after Howard Carter's discovery of his tomb, the story of Tutankhamun's life is still being re-evaluated. New technology and scientific methods may uncover mysteries surrounding the brief life and reign of the pharaoh whose successors attempted to erase him from history. Likewise, there are many details about Tutankhamun's family members from the Amarna period that remain unknown, and the young pharaoh's parentage even remains a matter of debate. Thus, King Tutankhamun, despite being the most famous of all Egyptian pharaohs, whose death mask has become a symbol of ancient Egypt, remains something of a mysterious figure. He grew up in Akhenaten's court at Amarna, where he witnessed the establishment of the cult of Aten, the memory of which was later obliterated by his successors. After spending the first decade of his life accompanied by religious upheaval and political disorder, Tutankhamun came to the throne and began the process of restoring the old gods and disestablishing the cult of Aten, abandoning Amarna for the traditional political and religious centers of Memphis and Thebes. After his death at a very young age, his legacy as a man who began to restore the old religion was usurped by his advisors and successors, Horemheb in particular, who sought to erase Tutankhamun from history. For more than 3,000 years thereafter, Tutankhamun remained unknown and undisturbed, until Howard Carter's discovery of his tomb elevated him to a degree of international fame that easily eclipsed the significance of his own brief reign.
Do you think Horemheb, looking back, would think, well, I had everyone forget him for 3,000 years, and then that damn Carter.
What do you think of Tutankhamun? Was he the tragic boy king who spent most of his short reign controlled by his courtiers, or should he be recognized as an important historical figure in his own right, responsible for restoring a degree of political and religious order after the upheavals of Akhenaten's reign? Please let us know in the comment section. And in the meantime, thank you very much for watching.
He was an important figure because he became a king. He gets the asterisk because he was so young. He also died so young. He's kind of a what if. What if he didn't die? What would he have accomplished? But it was taken away from him by an accident, you know. So it's interesting. It's kind of sad, you know, he died so young, but I mean, it kind of is what it is, I guess. So you tell me, what do you think? Was he important? Yes? No? Maybe so? Well, I'm going to end this video here. I enjoyed this. I like the series. And I also like the channel, the People's Profile. The People Profiles? Or the People's Profile? The People Profiles. I like their channel. I'm also... They thanked me for doing a video once in the comment section. They said thanks. So I felt really nice. I was like, ah, no problem. So because of that, I'll always like them. All right. Until next time, have a good day. Have a good night.